So could mean that guys like Lawrence Okoli, and especially if it's your right eye, if Jake's getting hit in his right eye, that usually would mean that he's getting jabbed, because that jab in orthodox would come out from the left hand on the right eye side.
And that experience would have been somewhat of a dawn of realization upon Jake Paul that this is actually happening now. So to an extent, I'll be honest, I actually feel sorry for Jake Paul.
Jake Paul was reportedly knocked out by a heavyweight sparring partner while getting ready for his upcoming fight against Anthony Joshua. He later showed a bruised and swollen eye and explained that the injury happened during a sparring session with Lawrence Okoli.
Keep it going. Way too long. There you go. Good round, Jake. Check that.
Joey Knight explained that Jake Paul was training with elite heavyweight fighters such as Lawrence Okoli, Frank Sanchez, and Jared Anderson. During these intense sessions, Paul showed clear signs of injury, which revealed how hard the sparring really was. Knight called this stretch the hardest week of Paul's career and said the strength and experience of his training partners caused real damage. The visible bruises and marks after training showed how demanding it is to prepare for a fighter at the level of Anthony Joshua. According to Knight, these moments prove that Paul is dealing with challenges far greater than before, since even controlled sessions with top heavyweights can cause serious harm and push his limits inside the ring.
Ranked Lawrence Okoli. That is who Jake Paul has been sparring with over these past few weeks.
In trouble finding Hussein Mohammed early on.
And a lot of you guys will know this because Jake Paul showed the bruises and marks on his face and said that it was Lawrence Okoli that had done that. And faces don't necessarily tell you how a spar went. Some guy can have blood all over him, he can have a busted up nose, but he still won the rounds in sparring. But I can only imagine that this week has been a very, very humbling experience for Jake Paul. In fact, the past few weeks will have been eye-opening for Jake Paul. A past few weeks where he has sparred the likes of Lawrence Okoli, of Jared Anderson, and of Frank Sanchez as well. And being that I have seen Jake Paul go life and death with Tommy Fury, you can guarantee you that Okoli, that Anderson, and that Frank Sanchez have basically manhandled Jake Paul in there. And that experience would have been somewhat of a dawn of realization upon Jake Paul that this is actually happening now. So to an extent, I'll be honest, I actually feel sorry for Jake Paul. I don't, because then I remember the 70 odd million that he's reported to be earning at the end of this fight. But you can't deny, right, that in a world where these almost fantasy fights and whatnot are making such a shitload of cash, that Jake Paul's probably being paid in line for this fight, actually. And the reason I say he's being paid in line is because I really don't think it takes a genius to work out where I'm going with my prediction for this fight. And that is obviously, no, in fact, drum roll, please. AJ via knockout, obviously technical knockout. If
Jake Paul's decision to train with top heavyweight fighters has attracted heavy attention from boxing experts and fans everywhere. Although Paul became popular by fighting well-known names, his training for a bout with Anthony Joshua has shown how serious this challenge really is. Practice videos show Paul dealing with huge power from heavyweight partners, which exposes weaknesses not seen in his earlier fights. Wade, a trusted boxing analyst, says these sparring sessions clearly reveal a major flaw in Paul's game. Reports claim Paul was knocked out in training, which shows he has trouble coping with the strength and power of seasoned heavyweights. This has led many to question if Paul's confidence truly matches his readiness to face a former heavyweight champion like Joshua.
Question is, which one of those two things is happening? And question is, how is it going down? Because what we know about Anthony Joshua is that he has a nasty lead hook, and he's going to have a reach advantage on Jake, just like Lawrence Okoli does in the gym, which is why Jake has brought him in. So that jab's going to be effective. That lead hand of AJ is going to be effective. How does Jake maneuver around that? And again, you can look at this a couple of ways. One, okay, you get hit with it in camp, so you don't get hit with it in the fight, which is why you bring these heavyweights in. It's why you bring Jared Anderson, Lawrence Okoli, Frank Sanchez in. Or two, there's a massive flaw in what Jake's doing, that he's continually getting hit with this, and the indication that he's getting hit by Okoli means he's going to get hit the same way with Anthony Joshua. I tend to believe a little bit of both, right? You do this so that it doesn't happen, but also how much can Jake really learn and to avoid something that's coming out with the jab or with the lead hook, or just again the distance control and the range of a guy like Okoli and a guy like...
Footage from Paul's sparring shows him taking repeated shots to the chin from heavyweight fighters with clear marks left behind that reveal how hard these sessions are on his body. The level of intensity when training with fighters like Lawrence Okoli is far greater than anything Paul has faced before. Those watching believe the mix of strength, size, and skill from these sparring partners is bringing out clear gaps in Paul's defense and his ability to absorb punishment.
6'5", he isn't 250 pounds. He's not a natural heavyweight. And you could say that's an advantage to Jake. He's going to be able to move around a little bit. Again, we'll talk about his feet in a second. But it's more to me the fact that what we're not seeing is the biggest weakness of Jake's, on top of the fact that he's gotten an eye smashed up in sparring. They said Frank Sanchez made his nose look like a crescent moon. We'll get to that in a second. Lawrence Okoli is giving him a freaking shiner in sparring. So again, you could say that's great work from Jake to be able to have these high-level guys come in, but you also have to admit that he's getting hit, and he's getting hit a lot by guys that aren't Anthony Joshua in terms of their skill and ability, or at least not at the highest level that AJ has been to. So,
but we brought in world champion heavyweight sparring partners, guys who are 270 pounds, 250 pounds, sparring them. It has been insane. I still got the remnants of...
Yeah, I see you taking a little shot there. I like that you're taking those...
Castillo, a respected analyst, speaks directly about the situation and says that facing Joshua in the ring would be extremely harsh for Paul. He believes that even with intense sparring, Paul has very little chance of enduring Joshua knockout power. Castillo adds that if Paul can last even 3 rounds against Joshua, it should already be seen as a major success. The message is very clear. Training with heavyweights may offer some learning, but it cannot fully prepare a fighter for the constant pressure, skill, and strength of a top-level former champion. The difference between influencer boxing controlled matchups and the true reality of a world-class heavyweight fight is very large.
I think, honestly speaking, if Jake can last 3 rounds, in a way he's kind of won a mental victory, because I'll be real, I think everybody's expecting AJ to come there and blast them out in 1 round, but I think a moral victory would be if Jake just lands 1 stun punch on him. That'd be good enough for him. But kudos to Jake Paul for even doing this, because honestly speaking, I'm not gonna lie to you, one of the greatest moments that I've witnessed in boxing history, and I know Jake Paul is obviously an influencer, and I'm a boxing fan. I love boxing, so this is a bit weird to say that this is quite a huge moment. But just when he came out last year, and he came out of his brother, and he came out a low rider, I got goosebumps, because in that moment I said to myself, how can anybody watch this and not feel like dreams can't come true? He must even surprise himself looking at that and think to himself, how on earth am I even here fighting Mike Tyson? And one more thing, even with speaking of that, I give him a lot of respect for not knocking out Mike Tyson, because he could have. And so I respect him for that. So against AJ, and for AJ as well, AJ gets a lot of flack, but at the same time, I think AJ's he's about 35, 36, 37 right now. He doesn't really have anything else to prove right now, so why not cash out with a big fight?
Simon Jordan, together with the TalkSport host, has spoken about the one-punch knockout power of Joshua and how it greatly increases the danger for Paul. As the fight gets closer, it is being seen less as an exhibition and more as a truly risky matchup. Experts stress that Joshua's ability to finish a fight with 1 clean shot is very real and proven. It comes from his past as a heavyweight champion with sharp timing, strong technique, and heavy power. Every sparring session Paul has with heavyweights is meant to prepare him for these high-danger moments in the ring. However, even seasoned analysts admit that training in a controlled setting is very different from facing the full force and pressure of a professional heavyweight champion in a real fight.
Yet. And having Anthony Joshua in front of you, I really hope it doesn't go to that end, but it's a very, very dangerous fight.
You actually just said that if the fight goes ahead, do you believe then that this fight won't go ahead? Because there's many people that do.
I mean, I think it goes ahead, but I mean, I don't know what Jake Paul is thinking, to be honest, because you're talking about someone that is 2 times heavyweight champion of the world. Is someone that actually have got a 1-punch knockout power. He understands range, he understands positioning, he understands how to set you up. He's a bigger man, he's a stronger man. I don't know where, for me, yes, that I'm thinking the worst, but I want to be positive, and I really hope that both of them goes home safe with plenty of money. But looking statistically and the professionalism of the sport, I don't see the fight going past 2 rounds.
Well, interestingly, when we're recording this show, it's been announced, and it'll come after, our show will come out afterwards, that Jake Paul was doing an announcement this afternoon at, I think, something like 2 o'clock our time. So who knows what that's likely to be. Interestingly, I spoke to Eddie Hearn when the fight was first announced to try and get the take of what this really was. And his belief, Eddie's belief, and whether you subscribe to Eddie's views on this, is that he genuinely believes that Jake Paul doesn't know what he's walking into, doesn't seem to have a regard for what he's walking into, is slightly deluded about it, thinks that Anthony's a bit chinny, and thinks he has a chance in this fight. Now, I don't know about you boys, but unless you've lived under a stone, you know that Anthony Joshua can punch. The only debate about Anthony Joshua is not the physicality of Anthony Joshua, is the psychology of him. There's going to be no psychological damage to Anthony Joshua when he walks in against Jake Paul. This has jeopardy written all over it, doesn't it?
I think from Jake Paul's side, I think
For Jake Paul, physically.
Yeah, I think that Jake Paul, though, is actually deluded enough to believe that if he gets inside, that he's got.
Is he?
He must be.
David Hay offers insight into Jake Paul mindset and suggests that the influencer may think he can approach this fight using the same plans that worked before. He explains that believing Paul could win means accepting very unrealistic situations, such as a strange outcome where skill differences do not matter. Experts view Paul's choice to spar with heavyweights as brave, but also a warning sign. These sessions might help him learn how to deal with power and build stamina, but they clearly show the gap between training and real competition. When Paul finally steps into the ring with Anthony Joshua, he will face pressures and dangers that no level of sparring can truly recreate.
That was possible. But it is, and it's happening. And my initial thoughts were, Andy's just going to blast him out as soon as he hits him. He's going to just punch his head in and knock him out. That was my initial thoughts.
See what I was sitting ringside when Anthony Joshua annihilated Francis Ngannou. Now Ngannou's not a boxer, but he is a fighter. He's a big lump. He knows what it takes to take punches.
He was a lot more than that going into the fight with Anthony Joshua. He'd just beaten, on my opinion, and knocked down Tyson Fury, who was the champion at the time. So I don't think that fight is a close representation of what Jake Paul brings to the table, because Anthony Joshua was going into that fight against someone who looked like they just beat Tyson Fury. So although on paper Ngannou didn't have any credentials in boxing, he had the physicality, the size, the strength, and all of that cage fighting background to somehow put together an amazing 10 rounds with Tyson Fury and lose a close fight. So Anthony Joshua went into the Ngannou fight on his best form. He went into there with that fear factor where he didn't want the performance Tyson Fury had. He wanted to really impress. So he obviously tuned right in for that fight, and the results were clear to see. Is Anthony Joshua going to go into this fight with Jake Paul with the same mindset after seeing him beat on points a 58-year-old Mike Tyson? My opinion is no. I think he feels zero fear in this fight. He's in a unique situation where he's going into a boxing ring.
Boxing is not only about taking single punches, but about reacting smartly while under constant pressure. Every session with heavyweight fighters is meant to improve confidence timing and quick reactions. However, the raw strength of a fighter like Joshua brings dangers that go far beyond anything Paul has experienced up to this point.
Getting a lot of money to be there, and it's easy work. But what is in that for Lawrence Okoli, Frank Sanchez, Jared Anderson?
Easy money. I don't know how much he'll be paying sparring partners. I assume to get those caliber of sparring partners in, it's got to be big money.
Lawrence Okoli's got a fight coming up. If you're Joe Gallagher, are you go spar Jake Paul? Is that going to help you?
No, absolutely not. Are you going to get a bit of profile from it, perhaps? People are going to hear your name? Yeah. Does that help? I remember going to spar with Kessler, and I got £500 or euros for the week. It was the hardest money I've ever earned in my life.
How much did you learn from?
Yeah, me, bundles.
Yeah. What's Okoli learn? I don't get it.
No.
I do get it, the money. But when you got a fight coming up, I'm thinking, really? Are you going to get anything out of that sparring that's going to help you in your fight? Maybe you are. Maybe I'm just completely diminishing Jake Paul's ability, but I'm struggling. I really am.
Fair play to Jake Paul. I mean...
And you're right, there's a bit of a conflict there, because Joshua used to manage him.
Yeah, it was through 258, right?
Yeah. But surely they're smashing him to pieces. Surely Jake's going, oh, what the fuck? This is fucking horrible.
Every single one of those 3 fighters there, could annihilate him in a round.
Yeah, so are they not? Aaron Quiggin stresses how serious the situation really is and says Paul is moving far beyond the world of entertainment or influencer boxing. He explains that confidence and athletic belief alone cannot cover the clear physical and technical gaps Paul will face against Joshua. The knockout power Joshua carries is very real, and any mistake or underestimation could lead to instant consequences. Quiggin view matches what many experienced analysts believe. Paul's rise through social media and celebrity fights is impressive. But stepping in with a true heavyweight champion presents a challenge on an entirely different level.
And you got Brian Norman Jr. all in the 154-pound category. So it's a tough division. So it wouldn't at all surprise me if he's unable to win a world title because the opposition is good. But maybe if he boiled down to 147 again, he would have a better chance.
Last thing I want to ask you about, Barry, is the big news regarding Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul. One of the biggest quotes, two of the quotes that stuck out to me was that David Hayes said that fight could be Jake Paul's last day on earth. And I think Gareth A. Davis has described it as a freak show. Some people are saying, AJ's grabbing the bag. There's nothing wrong with that because anybody else, if they got offered that kind of money, they would do it. So, and some people are suggesting he might damage his legacy. Where do you sit with the decision of him taking that fight? And it's a professional 8-round fight as well.
Yes, it's a highly dangerous fight for Jake Paul. I don't know what he's doing, unless they have done some sort of caveat or some sort of agreement that he says he's going to go easy on him, or he's not going to go flat out. But I've been tossing this up and down in my mind and trying to figure how and under God, when he had agreed to fight someone like Tank Davis, who is several divisions below him. That's more like what Jake Paul does, and then he goes from there to fighting Anthony Joshua. I mean, just look at what happened to Francis Ngannou, who's a big, athletic, tough guy and had gone 12 rounds with Tyson Fury and given him a real ding dong, and then he gets absolutely obliterated in a round and a half against Joshua. That shows you, despite the fact that he's been knocked out since by Daniel Dubois, who could knock out anybody, by the way, in any weight division or in any era of the heavyweight division. He's such a powerful guy, he could knock anybody out if he hits them properly. But it just
wraps up today's video. Keep watching for more updates. See you next time.